Let's go.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Zephyr's Adjusted for Risk podcast from the shores of Lake Tahoe. I'm Ryan Nauman, the market strategist here at Zephyr. We have another fantastic show lined up today, and one that I'm really excited for. In today's digital landscape, financial advisors face a paradox. Despite an influx of online leads, many struggle to convert these prospects into clients. And the heart of the issue lies in the tendency to prioritize quantity over quality, leading to frustration when, encountering unqualified or disengaged leads. Well, I have the perfect guest on to talk about this challenge, as well as how to differentiate themselves from their peers. But first, today's episode is sponsored by the award-winning Zephyr, which helps investment professionals make more informed investment decisions. I'd like to give a very warm welcome to Rishi Bharathan. Rishi is the CEO at WiserAdvisor. Rishi, thank you so much for coming on the show. It's an honor to have you on. Can you please tell us a little bit more about yourself and WiserAdvisor?
Sure, Ryan. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here, and I'm excited to record this podcast. But before we get started, I must say I'm a little bit jealous of your location, Lake Tahoe. If this goes well, we'll have to do it in person next time.
Yes, I often talk about how we should, having guests, maybe we'll do it on the chairlift or something like that, or literally on the shores having a cocktail from a tiki bar or something on
There
the
you go.
shores of the lake.
I'd love that. I'd love that. Will give me a good excuse to come and visit.
There we go.
But
There we
yeah,
go.
thank you. Thank you again for having me. I have been in the lead gen industry for close to 20 years and have been at the helm of WiserAdvisor for the last 8 years.
Okay.
Actually got my start in the industry quite by accident. A Respond, which is the parent company, acquired a business that me and my partner started back in 2006. And I've been here ever since. We've done lead gen in a lot of different categories. But since 2011, really our focus has been in the financial advisory space.
Okay.
And today, that's all that we do. Our main focus is helping advisors grow their practice by providing them high quality leads. Last year, we had an interesting opportunity to acquire IndieFin.
Okay.
IndieFin is a reviews platform that allows advisors to survey their clients and then publish the results of those surveys online in a compliant manner.
Okay.
And so when you think about, what we provide for the advisor, our two solutions, high quality leads plus online reviews to help close those leads more efficiently, we've created a true organic growth platform for advisors. We take a lot of pride in helping consumers along their financial discovery or wellness journey. And we've created a lot of world-class content on our site. And we're very proud of the thousands of matches that we've created between consumers and advisors over the years.
Interesting. Later on, I want to talk about lead gen here first, but later on in this conversation, I really want to talk too about the review processes. That's really changed over the past couple of years. So I'm really interested to hear what you have to say about that.
Absolutely.
Just today, it's crazy we're having this conversation. My son and I were having a conversation about Christmas and Christmas presents. And he was talking, I was like, Oliver, I think it's time maybe for us, instead of getting like 50 presents, maybe you just get 2 or 3 big ones. He did not like that idea. He said, I want quantity over quality. I want hundreds of presents
Sure.
versus a couple little ones. So this topic, and I started at the open about quantity or quality. It's an everyday, a thought, kind of like opportunity costs, right? And everyday life. In the case of financial advisory leads, more isn't necessarily better. Can you please talk to us about that common misconception that, a high volume of leads automatically translates to business growth?
Yeah. So, I agree that quality is very important. But in your example, I will take the side of your son and say, yes, give me more. I think for some things more is good. But jokes aside, I think quality of leads, listen, quality is going to be important in anything that we do in our lives, right? If everything could be high quality, fantastic. But there are some industries which are going to be successful only at volume. Could be insurance, could be mortgages, could be home services. And we have experience doing that, or doing that in the past. One of the reasons we chose to focus on the financial advisory space is the dynamics here are a lot different. For one, advisors value their time a lot. They're not set up to make 100 phone calls a day.
Hmm.
The lifetime value of a client, both in terms of the monetary gain plus the length of the relationship, naturally lend itself to creating more deep, meaningful
Hmm.
relationships. Um, for most people, money is a very emotional subject. And the idea of handing that over to somebody that they may not really know is a daunting task. And so the amount of effort an advisor has to put in ahead of time to engage that prospect and to gain their trust is not an insignificant amount of time. And so,
Hmm.
for all of those reasons, the dynamics in this industry really come down to quality. Because if the advisors sense that, hey, listen, I have to call up 100 leads to speak to one or two people, that in their mind is just not going to scale.
Yeah.
And what we have done as we have evolved our business, we have chosen to focus on quality of our entire process. And that's a quality outcome for both the advisor and the consumer.
Hmm.
And those are the relationships that typically work well for us, is when an advisor comes in and they understand the value that this client represents and their willingness to pay for that value because what we're providing them is, a high quality referral.
Mhm. That's fantastic. I'm glad you brought that up because we often talk, you are so limited in the time as a financial advisor and you've got to wear so many different hats. Focus on working with clients you enjoy working with. I know, you're maybe limiting your clientele or the number of clients, but it's so much more rewarding if you are working with clients, you enjoy it. Maybe you have the same interests, if it's sports or something like that, that you can always, it helps deepen that relationship, like you said, which makes it much more enjoyable, enhances the client experience. And, I think ultimately benefits your practice and builds AUM in the process.
No, that's exactly right. For especially when you're talking about the smaller advisory firms, one, two, three-man advisors, they don't have infinite capacity, right? There's a
Mhm.
certain number of clients that they can manage and manage really well before they have to engage with, a junior partner or, additional staff to help them. And for all the advisors that we work with, especially ones that fall into that category, they are super conscious of who they want to bring on and, at what scale.
Mhm.
And that's again where just the overall quality of the service that we provide comes through.
Perfect. So you talk about you get all these leads in this digital world, or hopefully you're getting all these leads in this world. How do you sift through these leads to locate really those high potential clients that we're talking about, the clients that you want? What are some steps to doing it, or do you have any tips to sifting through those leads?
Yeah, I feel like this could be its own podcast. And that comes from years of experience, and really making the majority of the mistakes in the book. We've
Yeah.
learned by trial and error. And when we talk about the lead vetting process or how do you sift through leads, for me, it's really a holistic approach, right? This doesn't start from when a consumer's filling out the form. This starts by where did this lead come from?
Mm,
So the source, right? Where does this lead originate from? What is the content that we're using to engage that lead as they're going through their journey? What is the process that we're putting this consumer through? So, for example, are we taking them to a multi-step form with relevant questions? Are
okay.
we taking them through a dynamic form that as they answer questions, now we're giving them more relevant options? Or is it like a single step form fill? After they've submitted this, we still are keeping them engaged as they're going through our screening process. All of this is super important because ultimately for us, it's keeping that consumer engaged throughout the process, including for when we create that introduction to the financial advisor. And
Mm.
so we tend to look at this holistically. The analogy that I like to use, Ryan, is if you're making orange juice, I'll have a funny story about that later. Uh, you can have a great machine, but if your oranges aren't good, you can have the best machine, the best filter. What you're going to get is not a great product.
Yeah.
And one of the things that we realized early on is the source of the leads matter.
Hmm.
Where is that consumer in their journey? And where I feel we have become experts is getting in front of that consumer when they are at that part of their journey. So a little bit further down the funnel than maybe what some of our competition is doing.
Hmm. Interesting. And it probably first of all, your oranges. Yes, we often talk about garbage in, garbage out, in the data part of the business. But if I'm a financial advisor and let's say I don't really have a background or technology or, an interest in technology, probably the last place I want to market to or get leads to is maybe, from technology companies or technology industry or so on, right? I want to focus on the leads or the supply of leads in industries or areas that I enjoy and know a lot in and can connect with those clients.
Yeah, absolutely. So, what I described was, just a holistic process and the way we look at it. Now, we layer on top of that lead targeting that we know, okay, consumers of a certain age are more likely to make decisions because for them, retirement is not a distant concept. It's on the horizon, right? So we tend to focus a little bit more, you know, on demographics. Our content is geared more towards somebody who's got, say, $250,000 and up,
Mhm.
because we know that that's what most of our clients want. So over time, in addition to looking at this holistically, there are things that we are doing very deliberately to engage a certain type of person. And then on top of that, another layer is personality.
Yeah.
If you think about it, there is a certain type of consumer that is going online to look for an advisor. And that's typically, not exclusively, but typically a delegator personality. This is somebody who says, I'm going to hire a professional. I don't have the time to manage this. We have a ton of self-service tools on our site. And candidly, the consumer can directly pick up the phone and call any of the advisors or contact them one-on-one when they go to our site. All the information is there: phone number, their website address, a contact me form. The reason they choose to go through a process where they fill out the form is they are looking for us to give them that expert guidance.
Mhm.
And they are looking for, what we have heard back is they are looking for our recommendations on who they should meet with. Because sometimes decision fatigue, when you look at, 10 advisors, how do you know which two or three you want to speak with?
Yeah.
Um, and so what we've been able to do is create that confidence in our process. And the end result is a lead that's motivated and engaged.
Fantastic. You talked about the consumer, the end client, going to the internet and searching for a financial advisor, needing professional help. It's competitive out there. Financial advisory space is arguably the most competitive it's been ever. What are some ways financial advisors can increase their visibility and credibility on, the internet digitally so the end client can find them?
Another great question. I think this is going to sound like a broken record, and this is nothing new. But what we tell people is be authentic, be yourself, right? Understand what your strengths are, and make sure that your messaging focuses around that, because you will attract people who want to work with those personalities. Sure, you'll dissuade a few people as well,
Yeah.
but this comes back to wanting clients that you want to work with, right? I know numerous advisors. In fact, one of my neighbors, he since moved, runs a very successful RIA firm here in Northern Virginia, and he has an annual golf tournament, and I play with some of his longtime clients who've become friends.
Mhm.
And I think, so having that authenticity is very important. Obviously, I think in today's day and age, you need to have a credible website. You need to have, credible presence on social media. Um, you do need to be able to, you know, I hesitate to tell advisors create content, because unless you have a professional team, unless you have a schedule, writing one or two articles randomly is not really going to move the needle. So I hesitate on that. But certainly larger firms, I encourage to put out content through which consumers or prospects can engage, because ultimately that content is going to set you up as a subject matter expert.
Mhm.
um, Absolutely find your niche. There are some advisors who talk about, tax saving strategies. There are advisors who talk about, how to make, Roth 401k versus a traditional 401k, what you should be doing going into retirement. And they have a scale saying, okay, 10 years before retirement, this is what you should be looking at. And so understanding your niche, because that is also going to set you up as a subject matter expert in the consumer's eyes.
Mhm.
Right? Something that you are passionate about, something that you're well educated in, are great ways to increase both visibility and your credibility. Um, One of the other things that I tell advisors is, when you engage with your centers of influence, whether that's partnerships, your current clients, networking groups, um, they start to understand what you're bringing to the table. And so, those are the groups that should understand, okay, I've got a great financial advisor. He works really well with pre-retirees, or he works really well with, people who are in their 40s. That's his forte. They are your biggest spokespeople,
Yeah.
right? They are ones that can help you. And so having that message, that identity, and then ensuring that your trusted circle knows that about you, is very, very important.
I love it. I love where you just open that with is just be yourself,
Yeah.
right? That's how you connect. People like to be with people who are similar in what they,
Yeah.
and the only way they do that is be yourself, which sometimes is scary for me if I'm out there being myself. It's like, oh
That's
gosh, here we go. Um,
fair. Ultimately, what I think it comes down to is, and all successful marketers and salespeople know this, people don't buy from brands. The brand is what may bring you in the door, but they're buying from people, right? And I know that's true even in my case. I can go out there and I can talk about, what a great product it is, but they're buying because I'm showing some passion about it.
yeah.
This is, if I have one message to my advisor success and my sales team, is they are buying you and what you can do to help them. And especially when you're thinking about somebody who is trying to engage with a financial advisor, if you think about it, a financial advisor, getting a financial advisor is more of a latent need. This is not like, my air conditioning is broken, I need to fix it.
Mhm.
Sometimes it does happen when you have a money in motion event. Maybe there's an inheritance or a stock windfall and you need advice to right away. But more often than not, it's a latent need. And the consumer needs to have a trusted partner that they can go to for advice.
Yeah.
And that is super critical, especially in the relationship between a consumer and a financial advisor.
Yeah. You you hit it right in the head. Trusted partner. Right. You need to be a trusted partner for your clients. And it kind of goes along with that previous, topic, or just, how do you increase visibility and credibility? Well, how can advisors differentiate themselves from peers? Is it, like you said, that center of influence, those clients that you've had for 10, 15, 20 years, referrals, like what are some ways that they can differentiate themselves?
So I think you hit upon some, Ryan, and one of the ways that they can do it easily is through online reviews. And obviously, I'm a little biased because we acquired a company that does that, but that wasn't by accident on our side, right? As we evolved in the lead gen business, one of the problems that we wanted to help advisors solve is, hey, listen, you're sending us good leads. We would love to convert more.
Mm.
How do we differentiate? How do we let our personality show through? And if you think about the ecosystem, right, every advisor out there has got a website they spend money on. Some do a little bit on social media,
Mhm.
some do content, but all of that is written in the advisor's voice. That's coming from them.
Yeah.
Reviews are written from their client's perspective. And if you can create a authentic, compliant review system, that will absolutely differentiate you from your peers. Reviews are something that all of us use in our day-to-day lives.
Hmm.
It's what restaurant you want to eat at, whether should I really book this hotel or this Airbnb, or this product on Amazon, how many reviews does it have? Like, it's become unconscious. In the professional services arena, especially in the financial advisory space, the marketing rule passed in November of 22 that allowed advisors to do this. Adoption has been very low. Um, but for the ones that have done it, right, they are seeing strong results because it builds that credibility, transparency, social proof that you need to engage a prospect with. So I feel like there's many different avenues that advisors can use, but this one I think is easy lift, especially when it's done correctly. And it allows you to it allows your personality to come through. It'll attract the right type of clients for you.
Yeah, I love that. And for years, until, like you said, until the marketing rule just came out 2 years ago, it was prohibited from using and publishing client testimonials. Now all
Right.
of a sudden you can. It's interesting that not more advisors haven't adopted it. Maybe they're still a little leery of the compliance and regulatory issues. So, and you mentioned it when you were talking about in a compliant way, you know, how does a financial advisor do it in a compliant way? Or how does compliance play? What role does it play in publishing those testimonials and reviews? Because I agree, I think it's very powerful. I do everything, whether it's restaurants or where they go, based on reviews.
Yeah. Um, so I think, so I'm sorry, I was just thinking about something my daughter did the other day. She was looking for a 3D printer. And for the first time, and she's 11 years old. And I said, okay, go ahead and do your research. And then she came to me and said, Dad, this is the one I want to get. And before I even walked the computer, I asked her, I said, how did you choose this? She said, I read reviews. I read the review and I had a little proud moment. I'm like, wow, I may be doing something my 11-year-old daughter can do too. So, um, and so I think, you know, listen, compliance is scary in general. Advisors are pretty conservative. They don't like to take risks, and rightfully so. But, at a high level, one of the things that we looked at is we wanted to make sure that A, we're compliant, but we were also authentic.
Hmm.
I think there's a lot of, speculation about review sites in general. Do they only publish the good reviews? Do they only survey a handful of
Yeah.
clients? Um, and so from our perspective, an advisor uses our service, they aren't allowed to cherry pick
Okay.
which clients get the survey. They have to survey all their clients. Um, if they choose to publish reviews, they have to publish all of the reviews. They can't choose, pick and choose. And there are certain guardrails that we have in terms of what the review can say. So promissory language, all that stuff. We ensure that that's all of that stays compliant. And at the core of all of this is making sure that the reviews, there's a certain authenticity to the review site. And one of the reasons we acquired the business was that was already built in. Now, I can't take credit for that. That's, the previous CEO, Akshay. So I'll give him a shout out. He built a fantastic system that had already got some usage in the industry.
Mhm.
Um, and recently this year, we helped a $6-7 billion RIA firm that's based in San Diego publish 1,500 authentic client reviews. The CEO allowed us to survey his entire base, and I think it's at last count, I think it was 1,550, and it was a fantastic experience for him. We were able to give him some data, and now they're able to use that in their marketing, in their
Mhm.
prospecting. They're having great success.
Love it. I think that's fantastic. And I can only imagine reviews and surveying clients is just going to get more popular now that more and more advisors are comfortable with doing it.
Yep.
So, how do you get started? This is fantastic. Focusing on organic growth, especially for the smaller RIAs that maybe aren't in a position to buy another practice or merge with another practice. So, they've got to focus on organic growth. So where do you get started and the few avenues that you can focus on, like lead buys or buy lead gen or internal like brand campaigns?
Right. So great question. One of the things I've been hearing at the few conferences that I've attended, organic growth seems to be the buzzword.
Mm,
But from my personal experience, I feel like organic growth means different things to different people. I naturally tend to go towards lead buys, but that's not always
okay.
the case.
Yeah.
And I think, whether that's doing branded search, whether that's investing into SEO, whether that's doing paid media or outside lead buys, or doing radio shows, or doing hosting webinars, or doing
Mhm.
mailers. All of these programs over time have proven to be effective. Um, I'm a little bit biased towards lead gen. I feel like it provides the greatest ROI, and specifically lead buys from third parties, because what we're essentially giving you is a qualified lead that is ready to engage. We've taken care of all the people with wrong phone numbers, people who are looking for services that advisors don't provide, which your own branded campaigns, you're going to have to service all of the leads that come through. Um, it's also relatively cost efficient. You don't have to stand up a team.
Yeah.
And so one of the things that we've gotten better at when engaging with RIA firms is asking them, hey, do you have the right foundation? Do you have clear messaging? Do you know, okay, if we put a prospect at your door, are you able to effectively communicate your value proposition? Do you have the right processes, the right people, the right incentives in place? Right? The advisor who's managing 150 clients, what is his incentive to add on one more client and now increase his paycheck by $1,000 next year? It's not super high,
Okay.
right? But the person who's setting that appointment, how do we get all of that aligned? And so you have to make sure you have foundation, you have people, processes, incentives in
Yeah.
place. And then there's also has to be a ton of education around how lead gen works, right? The most successful advisors in our program absolutely believe in what we do and what we bring to the table. And that's something that we've built up over years. And
Mhm.
the reason that's important is if they believe that the leads that we're providing them are authentic, they will put a disproportional amount, and I use that word deliberately, disproportional amount of effort to get in front of that consumer. And those are the ones that tend to have positive outcomes. And it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? If you're going to call a lead 2 times and say, oh, this is a bad lead, guess what? The leads are going to be bad. But if
Mhm.
you decide to put your effort in and to make calls, provide value to the consumer, you will have success. And I can talk about this from personal experience.
Yeah.
Prior to leading this business, in a previous life, I used to do mortgage leads.
Okay.
And my time to call, and this is back, I'm going to date myself. This is the early 2000s. Um, I used to sit and call people from 6:30 to 8:30, and it was a rigorous schedule. And for me, it was just about the number of dials, the messaging, and it would almost always, I don't think I ever had a period where I didn't have success. Now, where I did have success was when I didn't follow that process. And so having that belief that the service provider that you're working with is good, is authentic, who's there, who is with you, who is in it with you to win it. I think bringing that attitude to the table um, goes a long way in determining how successful you're going to be as you embark on this journey.
I love it. I think that's fantastic. I mentioned before numerous times on this podcast, my passion's on the investment side. That's really why how I got into the industry and where this podcast started. And I'm sure there's a lot of financial advisors that are similar, where they prefer the investment side, portfolio management
Right.
portion of the business, and marketing is foreign to them. It's foreign to me, and I've learned so much during this conversation about lead gen and the importance of it. And it's just, not going out fishing in the ocean with a huge net. You have to be a little bit more considerate of where you're getting those leads at and what you're doing with them. And I think it's fantastic. It was a great learning experience for me during this conversation and our previous conversations. And I think for other financial advisors who would rather focus more on investments, but marketing and lead gen is arguably the most important piece of their practice. Real quickly, you got a few minutes. I like to end with a fun story. You mentioned there might be a fun story behind those oranges that you talked about. Any fun stories? Could be business related or not.
Sure. So I'll share with you a couple of stories. The orange juice story was, my when my daughter was born, for whatever reason, we didn't want to give her store-bought orange juice. So we would buy oranges and then we would juice them. And I tried a couple of different juicers, and everyone kept breaking. So finally I said, you know what? I'm just gonna get a nice juicer. So I got one of those Breville's.
Mhm.
And so and then we would run to Costco and get these big bags of oranges. And every morning, we would give my daughter this fresh squeezed orange juice. Well, lo and behold, when she was about 3 years old, she said, I don't want juice anymore. So I said, no problem. So I had this expensive machine. And then my second daughter was born. And I said, okay, now I can use the machine again. And so, it's important to us, and the analogy that I'm running is having a good machine is very important. But every once in a while, the batch of oranges that we get from Costco are sour.
Yeah.
And so for us, right, we want to always ensure that, we're getting in front of the consumer at the right time to ensure that there's no sour batch of oranges. Now, it's easier said than done. There are economic cycles in the world that will cause people to sort of, hesitate before making that decision. But in general, I feel like, we're doing all the right things. Um, Another fun story, sometimes I myself am in disbelief when I look at the leads coming in. And, when we get people with $5 million who are looking for an advisor online, um, and that's a little bit higher than a normal client,
Yeah.
always intrigues me. There's a famous playwright, one of the most famous plays. I'm not going to name him. He was on a Broadway show for many, many years. This is a few years ago. That director's father came onto our site and placed a request. And when I saw the name come through, I was like, wait a minute, any relation? So I looked at the notes of our verification, and sure enough, even our caller asked that question, and that happened to be the dad of the director of the show. Uh, I'm not going to name the show, but this is
Yeah.
something very popular about a historical figure. Um, so yeah, I mean, it's been, I've seen a lot of stuff come through. And just going back to my daughters, I've got two, 11 and an 8-year old, and what they have done successfully, which not many people have been able to do, is they've shifted my musical genre away from my selection to more Taylor Swift. So I'm a Swiftie, not
That
related to business, but I just thought I'd share that. I told my daughters I'd give them a shout out when
uh,
I was doing
I
this.
I love it. Yes, thank you. Your daughters are like many other girls out there, and boys too,
Yeah, yeah,
liking Taylor Swift. It's amazing. Real quick, so out here in Lake Tahoe, um, first of all, that's amazing that these people that have a lot of money are using like like the internet.
Yeah.
You would think that they would have a center of influence that they would go to find their financial advisors. Each year there's a celebrity golf tournament out here that American Century puts on.
That's
It's
right. That's right.
televised, it's huge, and the Kelseys were at it. And Taylor was not here, but you should have
Okay.
seen the group of people that were following Travis
Yeah,
Kelsey.
yeah, I bet.
It was insane. The amount of people that just had Travis Kelsey jerseys on, and tell
She's
you
a
what,
one woman force. I mean, she's done, fantastic things, and she's such a, what I really appreciate about her is she's such a positive role model, especially for young girls.
yeah.
And with all the media pressure, I think she's handling herself fantastically, and I just wish her all the best.
I agree. And I think Travis, he's just kind of out there. He's there, he's himself. He's
Yes,
authentic,
I like. Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
And I think that's maybe helped her bring her down a little bit where she's just not this, mythical figure, right? People see her, oh, with Travis, you can be
Yeah,
yourself and so on. So it's
I like that.
fantastic.
Good stuff.
Yes. Rishi, thank you so much for coming on the show. It was such a fantastic show. You brought so much insight. Real quickly, where can our audience get more information about Wiser Advisor?
So you can go to wiseradvisor.com or indiefin.com. On the upper right, there's an advisor section. Just click on that. On Wiser Advisor, all you need is your email. On IndieFin, there's a quick sign up process. We actually have a freemium product that I'll plug on the IndieFin side. We allow advisors to use the system if they want to collect feedback from their clients without any pressure to publish. We're offering that for free for advisors. And then on the Wiser Advisor side, there's a ton of content that we've created both for consumers and advisors. So feel free to come back to either Wiser Advisor or IndieFin, upper right-hand side. You can click on the advisor sign up button.
Awesome, Rishi. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Like I said, it was such an honor to have you on and a fun conversation. Thank you, everyone, for listening to this episode of Zephyr's Adjusted for Risk podcast. You can watch all of our or listen to all of our episodes on the Zephyr YouTube channel, as well as on Spotify and iHeartRadio. Thank you and have a great rest of your week.